Live?
We are.
We are live.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if we're live, but we're starting.
No, we're live.
Good.
Okay.
Perfect.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Tonight is an exciting night for me because I've been working with Andy for the last year, and he's brought a lot to the district with his thinking, being in a different industry, and the way he evaluated situations and things like that are very different than what we've done historically. And I think he's brought a different way of thinking to the district. And he and I went over the PowerPoint he has here. It's really an informative PowerPoint on the way he thinks and his vision of where we should go. I'd like a lot of interaction with Andy so he can get into a lot more detail and explain where he's coming from. But he's been great working with over the years. So with all that, Andy, go ahead.
All right, thank you.
Do we want to verbally say the topic since people could just be listening?
So do they roll to your go around report who's here, just so we can line up names?
Okay. So, I'll turn it over and let you start, Melissa, but there's been a request to let who's here. So if you want to start with Mr. Block?
Block. Jerry
Andy
Grubb.
Block, school board representative. Really?
Jerry Grubb, school board director.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Wendy Thomas, committee chair.
Ed Tate, school board.
Mike Thorwald, school board.
Andy Rowe, transportation supervisor.
Jennifer Stretch, technical support.
Bill Foster, school board.
Denise Brooks, school board.
Robert Frazier, superintendent.
Bob Reinhardt, Director of Business Administration.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, go ahead. Andy, you want to move on with the agenda?
Yes, so I was asked to present, I guess, just an overall first year finding observations. So on the agenda, you know, kind of the look, learn, listen, lead, go through some of the key players, what the focus is, a little bit about transportation, the process, and then just talk a little bit about the path and then the future, and then just open up for questions from there. So many of you may remember the interview process. I remember it very clearly. I remember many times people asking, you know, trucking and student transportation. Very little similarities when you say it out loud, but as you observe throughout the year, there's a lot of similarities. And my goal, like I stated in the interview, was to look, learn, listen, and then from there, obviously, I'm going to add the other L, leading, because I feel for me to be effective in this role, I first have to understand the environment that I'm in. I was very familiar with the environment before. I was 15 years in trucking, transportation, and there's a lot of skills I was able to transfer into this role, you know, leading a group, obviously looking for organizations and opportunities to improve. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and move into the L's right here. So, you know, going into this position, I try to minimize the assumptions, you know. They are very different and very similar, but I wanted to just see how different they were. And I leaned on my team to provide, I guess, color and detail around that. And they've been very good with explaining to me how a Class B driver is different from Class A, and people are different from pallets, and I get it. But it was very in-depth and very informative. Still to this day, they joke around about it most of the time, but when they're not making fun of me, they're providing me some great insight. So, I asked probably the most basic question throughout the whole process because, you know, the way I think is different from the way they thought through the process. And there's a lot of things that they do that I wanted to understand why they did it a certain way. So I asked a lot of questions throughout it, and that allowed me to, you know, assess their understanding and then also challenge them in the way they're doing things. Another thing that we did a lot was the touch points. You know, we live in a world where a lot of emails and phone calls, it was just nonstop and constant. And, you know, I started requiring some of the vendors to come in and have regular meetings and rhythm, business reviews, talk about best practices. I think in the beginning, first student was set back a little bit while I was calling meetings on a regular basis. Some of it was performance driven. Other meetings were just trying to change the coaching relationship. We're in a long relationship with them. We have to make it work. So that was a focal point for you know, the first couple of months we were there. Another thing, you know, just coming from a larger company, everybody uses the beautiful word collaboration, but when it came down to it, There's very little bit there. We're all focused on what we want to get done. Here is a smaller environment, so I had to lean on everybody just to get the information, how things work, and they were great. And, we'll talk about an example later about how, we work with tax or IT on finding ways to, get through the data more quickly. And then the last one is just taking 5 minutes to explain, because as I went through this process, I felt like I had to explain every single step along the way to my team, because I'm a little bit different in the way I thought about it. And they did things a certain way for many years, and for the most part, they do an excellent job with it. But there are opportunities. If you ever went down to the dungeon, we have boxes of paper everywhere. We purge the files every year. Our transportation system just, when it rolls, it just forgets what it just did. So, I wanted to get to a place of just more electronic. And same thing for first student, we were faxing all the changes. And now that I say that, it just really disturbs me. But there's so many changes, whether it's a house stop or moving from a different school or the IU or a Monday through Thursday, joint custody, whatever the case may have been for that student. And we just fax the change again. And the run route sheet was 4 pages. We print 4, we fax 4. They have 4 come out of their machine. So the new system allows them to have visibility and eliminate all that waste. So hopefully there's a way to count how many boxes of paper we went through, and then next year after we're on board, we can compare that number. So the key players, internally we have van drivers. There's 4 full-time van drivers. We have 19 bus monitors. We also have a handful of first student, but the majority of them are employed by Council Rock. And we have 1 coordinator, and of course the staff that we support, whether they are looking for a trip or they want to schedule a van. At the end of the day, that's part of our team too. From a transportation side, we have the service provider for a student, Bluebird, the manufacturer of the bus, and then Zonar, the service provider for GPS. Propane is Rhodes Energy, and then routing is Edulog, and hopefully soon to be Transmining. We're going through the last steps of finding a contract. I believe we've addressed all the concerns that have been brought to the table, either by Jerry, Matt Ferguson, or internally. We have our call on Monday where I think we hash out the final details. Everything that we presented to them, they were agreeable to. So there's no real challenges along the way, and that's how it's been the whole way with them. So they've been a great partner early, and I'm sure they'll continue down the road.
If you could just share, because it came up, just so we could see what those are tomorrow, if you could let us know what the terms were that were finally agreed around the SLA. That was a question came up with the board. I'm glad they're agreeable, because it would be interesting to see if it's.
Matt has been back and forth with them, and that's the phone call we're gonna have.
And we left it in Matt's hands. I'd still like to know what became from the conversation.
If we could maybe wait, Matt is back on Monday, so maybe after this conversation. So the conversation's on Monday,
The conference with them is 11 a.m. on Monday with them.
so perhaps we'll send something out following that call on Monday.
So I was asking to see it before the call. I don't know if
Oh.
that's. I
See,
can send
yeah,
Matt,
yeah.
exactly, I can send Matt whatever references I want over the weekend if he
Sure.
commentary. I trusted Matt, and that was the condition we passed it on. So that's all right.
See, I don't think I have that. My fingertips, and I'd be afraid of Matt's discussion.
Maybe,
We'll see what we get, whatever we can do.
that's fine.
Understood. Yeah, absolutely.
The next slide just goes through the team. So we have 1 coordinator, thank you guys all, and Chuck Remez, very knowledgeable in the district, and definitely one of the best riders I've met, whether it's through trucking or student transportation, and just finds ways to really shake it up a bit and, help us find opportunities. So he's been great. 10-month employees, we have the 4 van drivers, 19 bus monitors. The reason why the van drivers are in red, they're more like 12-month employees because they also do ESY, and then the 2 weeks before and after ESY, they're in the office prepping for ESY and prepping for the school year, just getting information out of the private schools. So they really work 12 months out of the year. So I wanted to just highlight that. They provide a lot of support in the office for a lot of administrative functions, and just some of the most basic transportation requests also go through them, and they're able to assist with it because the way our agreement's set up, we have unlimited user license, for the people in our office.
Chuck is fully qualified to drive any of the vehicles, is he not? Chuck holds licenses that permit him to drive a school bus.
Correct. And same thing with the 4 van drivers. Currently, they all have Class B licenses.
So they're all qualified by license to drive any of them? Not that they would, but they are qualified to drive any of the vehicles.
They have, but this year they have not. So First Student has had enough extra drivers in their network to take care of all their trips, their call-offs and everything like that. So it's been a good year. I think in the past they have had to jump on the wheel and run some routes for First Student.
I know Chuck has responded to some things where he's had to go get a bus to respond for emergent or near emergent issues, or swap out a bus in a situation.
So just wanted to go through how does it work. This is a very simplistic, explanation behind it. So there's an application process, online or paper. Currently, we're pushing more for the online side of it, and we have 2 individuals downstairs on my team that assist with that, along with Rick Harkins and his team that handle the other side of it. From there, it's a 2-step appointment. It may sound a little odd, but they all come to our office first, and then they go to the school next after that. So we basically see all new families come their way. From there, it's transportation. Once they qualify, that's looking at stop type, special needs, route review, capacity, stop ads, and figure out what works best. In some cases, we come up with specialized transportation, whether that's a CR van, IU, or just sometimes we have students that ride by themselves for a specific need. And then from there, it's communication, which is usually the easiest portion of it, but since nothing can be pushed out really too simply from our software, we typically have to call everybody. The only time they are able to utilize Hack is before the school year starts. Everybody knows the look, and then every change after that happens through phone call, email, communication through the school to go to the families or special services. So,
And Andy, when you're talking about registration, who are the key players in that?
So we have 2 van drivers, Julie and Mary Ellen, that between their runs they come in the office and assist, and they do the online registrations, applications, and they also do appointments on site at the Chancellor Center. And then they also work with Rick Hargis and their team to push them through the online system. And from there, we create the packet, we send some the tags, and then give some to the parents that take it to the school. So we're very involved with the registration process because everything goes through the office for the most part. Even with kindergarten, 1st grade, their applications or registration comes to our office for us to input into eSchool Plus. And since there's not communication back and forth with eSchool Plus Edgelog, if we have to do a paper one, we put in eSchool Plus, and then shortly after we put in the Edgelog. So we have to type all the information twice.
So the transportation department, a new family moves into the community. Help me through this. New family moves into the community. They buy their house, it's June. How are they going to talk to the school district about getting their child involved? Are they going to deal with the transportation office to register?
Yes. So we have 2 lines, 1091 with our registration line, 1010 is our transportation, and they come through us for that. So the first step, if they haven't moved in, they'll go through Barry Desco and Kathy Ailing, and they'll receive a pre-authorization letter. Will allow them to proceed through registration, but they'll bring their packet if it's paper, or if it's online, they'll receive a message back from us that it's been accepted, and they'll call them for an appointment. We'll have a 15-minute appointment with them if they're organized, and then from there, they'll have a packet to go to school and health forms, whatever they do at the school from there. I'm not as familiar with,
So
but
we used to go to the elementary schools, front office secretaries. Nobody does that anymore, the whole district
all
registers?
10 of them do not do that. They all come in our office except for kindergarten and 1st grade registration. Those 3 days and 3 nights is when they go there, but all that paperwork still comes back.
Paperwork may come to you, but the parents go in and
Well, that's kind of my question, which is,
present it to the secretary.
So is that
transportation
because,
is an ancillary service, in my mind. I know it's essential, but it's ancillary, which is the child's interaction with the district, I thought would be school, particularly elementary, would be school-centered, because
This is, central registration came in a year or 2 before I got here, so it's been in place this way for 7 years or something like that. And I understand a lot of it was because of, with PIMS and all the data that's required now to be loaded up for every child, it was getting entered all different ways from all the different people.
PIMS.
That's the state reporting for all the children. It's really robust now, it's personnel and everything else.
Okay.
So it
We
got
don't get
changed.
complaints.
And it got brought down to transportation because they were aware of the attendance areas so much better than everyone else. So they'd be able to determine, oh, you're living on this street, you go to this school. And I think that's how it all built that way.
I'm only asking because as a new parent, you're running to Chancellor and the school, and my query was, I don't know why Chancellor would need to see us, as a new parent, physically. If you go to the school, in my simple mind, it makes sense. I'm taking a child, they're getting excited about the school, they're seeing what it is, and then the paperwork goes. And not that the van drivers don't handle confidential information, but I'd like to limit how many people are handling confidential information of the people who are sending their children. So to me,
Without limits,
Either-
it's 2 people.
Well,
Just
but
every
it's-
secretary in the district.
but we have someone in the district who does child accounting too at some global level. It seems
Well,
odd.
I
We'll
missed-
come back to it. It just seems odd.
I missed something, but do the families additionally have to go to the school?
No.
It said the
Yes.
appointment chancellor at school.
Oh.
Yeah, they go to the school afterwards with their health forms and all that other stuff.
Let's not,
Yeah.
it's an interesting point. It's
Mhm.
maybe something to consider in the future. Thank you for informing us. We didn't
I will
know.
tell you, I believe this occurred before it's gotten as intricate as it has, because Andy's gonna talk to you about some other issues that occur because of the flow of information occurs right in October and November when we're dealing with transportation issues and all that. There's other, process that needs to get done, so some of it waits longer than we should, so.
Also, but
Andy-
understand, the majority of the registrations are kindergarten and first grade, and that is happening at the school during a designated time.
Right.
So it's for people who just move in. It's not a large number, I'm sure. I mean, in the
Although, are
grand
you
scheme of the new.
encouraged to do it in March before you're?
No, that's for if you've already living here. So the people
You
that are,
move to June
the people that are
30th.
coming to Chancellor are people like who are moving in.
Oh, okay.
But the bulk of the new registrations
It's-
are probably people who already live here.
At first blush, it seems odd. Continue, but at first blush, it seems odd because it doesn't have that warm fuzzy, because I wanted the principal to have more of a understanding and more interaction they have with the family, and that's where I don't know,
I
I'm
guess
not,
it
I'm
was they
not
were
a
heading
child.
up in the wrong
person.
school. I mean, I tried
Oh,
to
yeah,
register
but
at Richborough Elementary, because
You're
I live
right.
across the street.
You're right,
They
right.
sent me to 2 others before I ended up at Holland, so.
People in my development would wind up oppressed.
I'd say
Yeah, so-
it speaks volumes that we've never heard.
Right, we've never heard of
it.
complaints, so.
They're new parents, they're just.
Registrations you've been
Yeah.
doing since you've been here.
I was gonna just make a note that I asked Kathy Yelling or somebody in that group that how many come mid-year. It's a large amount. It's not uncommon for us to get calls, weekly appointments on a student coming into the district. In the beginning, if it's a large amount, it's a big push, but it's constantly happening. Let me make a note to see if there's a way to pull that in. Maybe Rick Cargus can get that for us on registration. We'll look at total. We'll look at K and first, and just see how many there are on the center, in those buckets.
Thank you.
So the next slide goes into a little bit about other things that we do. So, the ones I highlighted in yellow are purely the transportation function. That's probably difficult to see. So I'll go from the top. It's marked at 2 months. So this is the part where we collaborated Act 80. Before they would go through 36,000, addresses, figure out which ones were Council Rock and which ones had to go to other districts and pass it along. This is more of a tax function than transportation, but once again, because transportation knows the district so well, that would fall on us. And they would go to each entry and figure out where, if it was Council Rock or not Council Rock.
Just acting.
I'll explain it.
Acting.
You know the information that you put on your state tax return, the 5-digit number
Right.
that tells you what school district it is. That is a download and dump to us. So we look and determine if any properties are in that list that shouldn't be in there because they're not in this district. And believe it or not, there's a lot of.
All right, let's just take the money. They put
Well,
down.
no, they won't give us the
their-
money. Actually, it's the way they accumulate personal income. When we say our personal income is so much in Council Rock, that's how they do it and determine it. And it's also the data that we use to cross-reference with Keystone saying, have we missed or is someone
Any of these people?
under-reported EIT? So it's a very valuable tool, and it's required that we fill it out. And for every school district that we find, we have to fill out a form and send it to that school district and say, this was reported in ours, and you need to know that it should be in yours.
Oh, I love the state.
And then a copy goes to the state, a copy goes to the
Thank you.
district you believe it belongs to.
Whatever.
So this year I worked with Rick Cargus and I think Devin from tax. And I asked them, there has to be a better way. We should know the district.
No kidding.
But every year they would just spend hours and hours on it. I hate to know how many hours, but we were able to drop in Decision Insight,
Okay.
and all the ones that were duplicates were eliminated, the ones that fell outside the district. That number turned into, I think, 2,000 or 3,000. So a list of 36,000 we went through in the past was down to 2,000 or 3,000 within hours. And then from there, we were able to process it. Chuck looked at it. We assigned it, I would say it went from hundreds of hours to 25. So just an example of collaboration on that one. Before we just got ActAD and complained for 2 weeks and just did it. Now we found a better way, and then after we completed that way, I said, who wants it now? It's in a manageable form, we can do this moving forward, and there might still be opportunities to even improve that process.
And we're still paying $11,000 a year for Decision Insight.
And I did ask about.
Well, that's
what it
100
does,
hours you just saved.
But
Come on.
And if Trans Global Net, whatever this, the new thing we bought does it, I'd save $11,000 for it.
Rick Cargus says that with the mapping tool, it also does all the projections and pulls all that data together for the district on, understanding what enrollment's gonna be in the future. Something TransFinder would not do very easily. Might be something that we still need unless we find a way to do it internally.
And that was the question we asked you.
Yeah. The next one is demographics. Bob hinted at this one a little bit. So when the demographics form goes out online, you can create, there's so many areas with it. It allows you to change phone numbers, guardians, if it shouldn't, and we have to go back and rework it. And after that, they shut it off and they send in paper forms. And meanwhile, we want to have the demographics information at the school, so the school has all the most up-to-date information. And I assume there's information with for the nurse on there too. That all comes right back to my office, however many. I remember seeing stacks and stacks of paper and buried desk when everybody asked me when we'll get around to it. That's not the best time for our department. As we launch the school year, we're getting a lot of change requests, a lot of issues on the bus, trying to work through that, and I have individuals working on the demographics. Somehow that's landed in the office. I haven't found a way to improve that one yet, but next year, hopefully we can disable some of the fields on the demographics form online and not allow some of those things to be changed, because we just start chasing people down, and, just because things happen in families, you just can't drop the other guardian, and the system is allowing you to do that.
It was on piecemeal.
So registration, we talked a little bit about that. I need to pull some numbers for you guys on, what are we doing for current year, upcoming year, K-1, but it's a constant flow. To the point we have an appointment book down there. I created that for the two girls to make sure that there's, nobody's waiting too long in the office, and we're getting to them on a timely basis. And then the other things up there is just purely administrative. Whether it's the phone calls, a change request, and a lot of that. One thing that we were able to spend some time on and just learn more about through some of the meetings I was going to was the propane credit and grant research. Not sure how much is out there on the grant research side, but we were able to tie up with a consultant who's presented a few times, and she's stated that there's opportunities out there. So, figuring out what should we be focused on is kind of the next conversation I have with Bob, and the focus and how we accomplish that. I'll go through a little bit about the propane credit on a later slide, but as I look at the bottom of that, the invoice review. That was eye-opening because it's not automated, and we had to kind of go line by line on different things. And I think I looked at 3 months, and it was a difference of 18 hours of billing. So 18 hours of billing per day at $46 times 180 school days, plus or minus a few there because they could have been for private schools. So it was big money. But by freeing up some of our time from maybe it's ActAD or whatever it may be, will allow me and my team, which is Chuck and I, two full-time people, to really dive into things like that where we can find opportunities to save, whether it's propane credits, grant research, or just accuracy of the So the next slide is kind of focus, we talked a little bit about, what I've seen, the experience, but really at the end of the day, the focus comes into 4 main areas. It's safety, number 1, safety of our students, the community, the general motoring public, just make sure that we get that safety education out there. Transportation industry is really good about talking safety, but I'm trying to put some action behind that. We're having multiple meetings with bus monitors. I talk to van drivers about safe operations. I push for a student to have a second driver meeting rather than just one to kick off the year. And also requiring them to do safety reporting into the office. I created a template for them to fill out. It's kind of a first report of an accident. They're really good at calling and leaving voicemails when things happen, but really I need more details around it because every once in a while there's students on there and I need to know exactly where they were on the bus to make sure that the parents were called. Is that something that we're going to do? Did the first student call them? Is the school going to call them? And just having some type of record there. So there's been a lot of focus there on just tightening up the reporting and the process when it comes to safety events. Service, there was no real tool on on-time performance. When I asked them, was this a good launch? They told me it felt like a good school year. I think the first week I
Yeah,
calculated
because we
their
paid them
on.
7.5% more, that's why it felt like it was clear.
That's probably why they felt better.
Yeah, they felt better, but they got more money.
What are we paying Zonar for?
What's that?
Shouldn't Zonar be able to put some of that?
So Zonar is more of what kind of the breadcrumb trail. They have a tool called Focus, and because of the way we had Edulog set up and their payroll system, I was not getting good information, so I created a spreadsheet and told them that on time is 10 minutes before the bell time. If it's 5 minutes before the bell time, I need an explanation. It was given to them. The first week they reported at 52% on time. About a month and a half later, they're in the mid-90s, upper 90s. Not consistent, but they were in the 90s all the time, so a great improvement. Of course, they said they would have got there eventually. It's just a launch of the school year. But they know that's being measured now, and they're going to provide that report a few times a week for the remainder of the school year.
Does the contract have clawback for failure?
95% on time. On time is not defined, and I was only looking at mooring. For me, it's just getting the students to the schools and then a fighting chance of getting their seat for homeroom on time. Getting home, I know the parents are very concerned about that.
I hear it. My question was really just, is there a service, back to the service level agreement thing that says, if you're not achieving it, it may not be in the contract this time.
You said 95%, but on time's not defined, so essentially there's no standard.
Yeah, I created one, but there is none.
Not in the contract,
Yeah.
right?
And there's I think there's a penalty after they get a warning, some sort of $500. We pay them $1 million a month.
I will tell you, Andy, we've had a lot of interesting meetings with the first student, and Andy conducts quarterly business review, and he conducts a meeting, and he's pretty stiff with first student. He's not getting as far as he'd like to, and he gets very frustrated with it, but they hear him.
We have the same problem.
We have
I would like to
who
attend.
came because the excellence person from their,
Director of Operational Excellence, who's a former owner of the bus company out here, Tommy.
but I mean, we're getting attention.
Yeah.
I mean, Andy said, show us your best client. We want to see who your best client is, and they still can't give it to us. Who is doing the best practices?
They said
Person who
it's
pays the
not-
But I
What'd you
guess,
say?
Andy has said, we want to be that group that you can bring to our facility, and I don't know if Andy's going to get there, but he's getting a lot of pushback. I would tell you, he's the most liked person at the first student.
You go. I have your back, man, anytime.
So what you need is teeth in the next contract.
Yes.
Our problem right now
Yeah.
is that there's no one bidding against them, so they know that they have, it's because of we believe it's because of the union contract.
I haven't heard anything here tonight that's a surprise on the negative sense. Everything I've heard so far is.
That's great, though. Routine meetings with them and stuff, well, that's great.
The goal I told them is for the next school year to have a scorecard, something to have or
Great.
drive our meetings. And they know for the on-time reporting, they have 2 choices: to fill it out manually for 125 routes, or come up with a way to do electronically using GPS. Same thing with the idle.
You can tell them we'd like to publish them publicly too. We don't need their permission.
We don't need the permission.
No.
And then with the MPG, you know, I politely reminded them that it's their asset and they need to produce it. So they're producing a number for the big buses, but they can't produce one for the small buses. So, you know, they have access to our fuel management system. So they may have to manually calculate that for 50. So they're really focused on, I think, trying to get there, because if not, their manager, their one salary employee on site there, will have to do that for 150 buses weekly. So it's their choice, you know, I give them choice.
their
on
choice.
how
You can
to
hire
do
another
it.
person to make one of them.
So, you know, that's kind of where we are on the service side, and then of course savings. You know, I've asked them to start tracking continuous improvement, call savings, ideas, initiatives, whatever it may be, and you know, they keep on giving me the ones that we know about, change bell times, early dismissal, all the home runs out there. But more importantly to me is where can we save 15 minutes on 150 runs? That'll save us a lot of money at the end of the day with minimal impact. So kind of working down that path with them right now. And we're going to start tracking, move forward. We're going to have goals. There may not be penalties in the contract, but we still expect that from our service provider. Internally, every year, my goal is to do 3%. Identifying 3%, whether we can implement that or not, is just something that we want to put out there for my team. Recently, you know, I talked to some of the people in the industry. There's a book came recommended to our group on, you know, just best practices out there. We're going to buy that book. It's just $20. I'm going to have my team read it because we've looked at transportation a certain way for so long, and we believe that's the best way. We're probably wrong. There's a better way, and I think by reading a book that has best practices, you know, from Texas and different areas of the country, will allow us to really think, can we implement this in our district? And if so, what will the return be? So from there, you know, of course, I'm going to read it too and then pass on to the first student because I'm challenging them to hit their numbers. They should know all the best practices. They have, I think they do 3 million students. They're ahead of us. So hopefully they get to that point and start sharing that. And that's the purpose of the QBR, is to sit down and really talk about what can we do to be better and how can we be your premier facility. And then as you know, from a technology standpoint, we have a long way to go, and you know, I think we're getting to that walk spot now. You know, we were calling a minute ago.
We're a penguin, is that what you're telling us? At least we're not a turtle.
We work 2 minutes here.
I know.
I'm shocked and I think pleasantly surprised to be hearing the acronym QBR used
I know.
in public entity. Good stuff, man.
Thank you. You know, so when we all, you know, after we, you know, sit down and look at the day, what we do is very simple. You know, we're trying to get somebody from point A to B, you know, what's important to us, safety, service costs, and just trying to improve. So I hinted earlier at the report card, that's kind of what I'm going to expect from them. On-time performance, I want to see it by, you know, AM, PM, by the full fleet, by district, by private schools. Every once in a while, I get a call from a private school saying that we're not servicing at the same levels as our district schools. Not true, but it may feel like that one day when there's a traffic jam, it's difficult for us to get in there. From a cost savings initiative or ideas, you know, I'm going to set a goal with them. It's going to be a percentage of our overall revenue and expect them to track it. Whether we implement it or not, that'll be a district decision, but they still need to bring something to the table. Percent of subs, you know, first student has their traditional home to school, their trips, and some of the charter work going out of there. And it seems like every time I get a phone call from an upset community member, it's somebody subbing on the run. So I really want to know, what is that percentage of subs are we seeing all year round? And what can we do to avoid subbing those runs? And there's specific runs I tell them they can't sub, but it's difficult with their work rules out there with their union. For example, kinder runs. We should not sub the kinder runs. We need to know which parent receiving that student. There's something there, and currently in our system, we don't have all those pictures transferred across to our route and or the routes that we print for our drivers. The new system will, so they'll be able to see, you know, names, and we can attach pictures and who can accept them besides their babysitter and their mom and dad, and maybe it's a neighbor too. So until we get there, I really want to know what we're subbing and try to mark some runs that just don't sub them at all.
We had a problem one time in the past where, because of work rules, somebody had extra duty, and it came while they were in the middle of a run that was active. So have we done away with the fact that subbing in the midst of a run? This was something where someone had a pickup, and they were midway through their junior high run in the afternoon, and
The field trip they wanted.
somebody else had to come to relieve them in the middle of the run, which then was delayed. No, this was a major. Is that is that done? We don't do that anymore?
It doesn't sound like they're doing things like that in the middle of the run, but they will dump a PM run or an AM run for a trip. So,
I mean, as long as, but this was in the middle of it, or somewhere in delayed delivery, delayed delivery.
Is that last year?
It was last year.
Was it last year?
I remember it was good. Do you remember it as well?
I think it was last year.
Yeah, I think it was last year too.
They pulled over
Yeah,
inside
but I
the
don't
road and
remember.
switched tracks.
And waited,
Huh?
and waited for the
Yeah.
driver.
No more.
last year as in.
Before you
Before
were.
you
I was like, okay.
I'm still on the same question. Wait, what do we mean by last year? We're now 16, 17 year. What is last year? Okay.
Before you were here.
Okay. We should just open each statement when you were
BA
here
It
before.
was BAR. It was bar. It was before Andy Rowe.
Okay. All right, and then from the MPG side, there's been a lot of pain there, but Zonar has come to the table with first student and found a way to get it for the big buses. So when I say big buses, that's 100 of the 150. The mini buses are 50 that they're struggling to get that information. That's because it's a Ford Bluebird combination bus. So we're getting closer to it. Before we were running the line. Now we have some visibility on that number, and we hope to get very accurate numbers soon. That way we can share and understand what the future looks like when it comes to consumption.
They are giving you numbers, but you're seeing some of those numbers as being garbage in, garbage out.
So I'll look through the data weekly, and you'll see a huge number of miles or average MPG over 12, which will never happen on a diesel, which has, in the propane is 65% BTU, so it has only 65% of the energy of diesel, so we can't run better than 7. So there's some garbage in there. We're working with Zoner and First Student on that.
Our MPGs are lower than I expected when we talked about it.
Is there any component of this and I kind of look at Denise for a moment,
We
because
have
I say this.
80%.
Is there any component of this for customer satisfaction? Do we do any random sample, email reach out to a random number of participants to say, could you rate your child's bus transportation this past week? Just wonder if we.
We haven't, I'm not sure if that's something they've done in the past, but with when we go to the new transponder, we have their email, their cell phone numbers, their emergency contact numbers. Right now we have limited fields in EduLog, so there would be a way to, let's say, bus 7 for Newtown Elementary. We could email that whole community and ask. We would just have to find a way to get that form out to them, but there's a way to push information now. Right now, we'd have to go on eSchool Plus and do a query on Matt Frederickson.
That makes sense.
And then idle is something that we get from Zonar. Interested to know how much we're idling. One thing that is used in big trucks is idle shut off. There's been some articles about Columbus, Ohio, and the police fleet. They have a 5-minute idle shut off, and they've been recognized for green fleets and a lot of things like that. That's something that we could probably implement over here. I just have to get First Student on board with an automatic idle shut off. It's not uncommon, but it's annoying for some people. But at the end of the day, we're purchasing the fuel, and we need to have better controls over it. And then from safety, just like I said earlier, if you ask First Student how they did in safety, it would be the same answer that they did with service. Feels like a good year. So now I can put some numbers behind it when it comes to frequency, preventability, cost, if there's any injuries. Earlier this year, unfortunately, we had a First Student driver misjudge a left turn, and from that event, one of our bus monitors had to go on work comp. So it's something that's very close to us. We're very fortunate there was no students on there, but there wasn't. Sometimes as I'm going through this process with them, I don't feel as though they make it as big of a deal as it should be. So I want to have the safety tracker in place and really have it at our quarterly business reviews and really talk about it. What are we going to do? And from a driver training, driver management standpoint, I've asked a lot of questions on what are your safety procedures, and then also why are they driving the bus the next day. So they released them back in the bus sooner than I would, and I've challenged them on that. And that's something hopefully you see some improvement on. And to add another thing with safety is, I'm interested in driving a bus at some point. I think one of the questions I think Jerry asked me if I was going to get my license in the interview process. This year I'm scheduled to start their training class in October. And one, I want to know what it's like on the road, because it's easy for these guys to say, well, you don't understand, you've never driven a bus. True. The other thing is I'm really interested to see what is their onboarding process and what are their new drivers learning, behavior-wise, skill-wise, knowledge of safety rules and regulations. And I'm sure they're going to try to flunk me a few times just to get back. But I will make it through the class, I'll pass the test, and then that'll give me a better idea of who's coming through our doors to service our community. So hopefully by this time next year, the second slide is a picture of my Class B license on there. And then
We can give you our addresses. You can come around to all of our houses and pick us up.
Well, do you currently have an articulated license, or do you currently have a license for over 26,000 pounds? Good. I thought you did. That's why I asked. Sorry, I got a CDL.
You gotta have one of the high school groups do a documentary as you go through that process. Fantastic.
I'll do it.
Before you move on, you mentioned Zonar a few times. I'm assuming 100% of the vehicles have Zonar? Correct. So how efficient is it? Because I remember when I had that incident with the bus off of Sanford Road, they said Zonar wasn't working, or the GPS wasn't working. How many of the buses out there don't have the GPS working?
At any given time, I would say most of them are working. So we get a lot of phone calls. A lot of them are, you missed my stop, or this happened, they're driving fast, and there's ways to look at overspeeds. I would say last year, no more than 5 times I could not pull information. So it didn't happen very often. When it did happen, of course, like I'm just scratching my head wondering what happened, but I can't think of it. So I think their uptime is relatively good. So the path on, kind of how we got to where we are now and finding some of the opportunity improvements is, auditing everything. With First Student, they don't have an automated billing process, so they put it on an Excel spreadsheet, they count the working days, and then they look at the schools and what's on the runs, and then it comes to me, and then I gotta make sure that their 6-hour rate is correct, if it's a 5-hour run, reduce it by 4 increments. So for that reason, I go line by line. That's why I talk about the example, 17 hours of just overbilling. Because the beginning of the school year, it was probably spot on. But with all the students coming in and out, the changes, and whether they, ended up leaving the district, private schools, all that, it changes drastically. And parent transportation, they stop going to a couple of house stops. Suddenly, the number goes down. So that's the reason why we audited. I look at what Edulon produces, and then I also look at what time the bus leaves and returns to the yard on Zonar, because that's where they start and finish their day. They won't argue that. When I spoke to First Student about it, was an interesting conversation that we use the route information you give us. Unless we want extra, then we want the extra. I said, you have the best of both worlds. You pick one, and we stick to it for the next 7 years. And the thing about it is they'll call and say, well, it takes us a little bit more time, so we enter that in load time, so that time's accurate for the families. The 7 minutes we put in there, where they can go for it, and then, an area where they're running more efficiently, would be go for it that way too. So, that's part of the reason why we have these business reviews, is local doesn't have the authority to say, we're going to pay Zonar versus we're going to pay the Edulon number on there. So it was an eye-opening event. Another thing was with Rhodes Energy. They were billing us after we got to 300,000 gallons. It's Mount Bellevue plus 40 cents. When I asked them where the Mount Bellevue came from, they said that they get it from their supplier. When I looked at the email,
What's the phrase you used?
It's not Bellevue, so it's like.
Just a spot price.
Yeah,
It's a spot price.
spot price. So once you hit a certain amount of count, you do a spot price, it's plus 40 cents on it. And I asked to see where do you get that rate from, because Mount Bellevue, depending on who's reporting it, it's an average. It changes it can change by a penny. So they forwarded me an email from the transportation coordinator from the person they delivered it to that said, you know, propane, Mount Bellevue on it. And that's just another example. It wasn't a reliable source.
So why don't you send one that's almost less?
Yeah, I should have just responded and say, you know, it's 2 cents less than Mount Bellevue and subject line. So those are kind of things that, you know, we see out here. It's just,
Well,
they
tell
do
them,
things a certain way.
tell these guys the resolution that occurred after you looked up a website that they could use because they wanted us to pay $400 a month for a service. They weren't gonna pay for it, they wanted us to pay for it. And then Andy found a website, go ahead and explain to them, just so.
So charge them 200 for your phone?
Yeah, see, so I found this website and they said that it takes 6 days to post and they were gonna take that off the 30 days we have to pay. And we argued that over. I said, why in the world would I pay $400 for the information that you should be providing me? I wouldn't ask you to subscribe to like Fleet Magazine for $400 a month and just send it to me. So we went back and forth and that's when I realized this company's very small and maybe difficult to deal with in the future. They came all the way around and said, well, we'll do you a favor since you're a big client of ours. We'll wait for it to post on, you know, the energy site, and then we'll start the 30 days from there. But
Tell them we're interested in RFPing their business.
we're in 3 years with them, 7 years with First Student.
That's all right, we can start the RFP process.
Oh, Andy was there, we had a,
They're a small company, I would actually have expected better service.
I
would
think
have
they know
thought.
by no uncertain terms that we're gonna.
Yeah, it's clear. We were on a call up there and she got a little sideways, like asking us, you know, I will tell you how to run your business, why you tell me how to run mine. And, yeah, and it got a little ugly and then eventually I got the terms that I wanted and now it's like business only, you know, no need to check in. We're just counting down the months. So unfortunately, I mean, looking after that event up in Moreland with the propane, hearing what they're paying versus what we're paying, you know, there's opportunities out there. We got their bid information. It's all a learning experience. We went to market first, and you know, it's one of those things where I think the next go around will be far ahead.
Yeah.
You know, where we were.
This is the roads we're talking about. With roads, with the propane supplier?
Just how they went out the bid, getting the rate, and
And things we can ask for that we maybe didn't even know we should, you know, should be asking for.
I think Andy and I could go out as consultants now to help school districts go through a process like this since.
No, you
We already got a
can't.
guy to do that.
No, I'm just saying that.
Poor Doug went out and did that.
Yeah, we've learned a lot, yeah.
Yes, we've learned a lot through this where there's a lot of things I do differently now that I've learned what I've learned.
Speaking to her, that's good. Just speaking.
10 minutes, Andy.
And then, those are all pretty basic. So how do we go from, you know, I boast a lot about all my team and, you know, kind of what they taught me, but I also tried to get out there and join organizations and listen to some of the best out there. Went to Queens 100 Best Fleets. That was eye-opening on the technology out there through Montgomery, Bucks, People Transportation. Heard a little bit more about propane. It got me thinking, did some more investigation. Initially, I was told that we were not eligible for credit. I read it. I had the IRS come in, we got audited. Our first check came in for $96,953. Our second check will be coming back to us for $68.44. And then next quarter, I haven't gotten the numbers yet, but it should be very similar to Q1. So that's a good thing. It's 50 cents per gallon. There was talk about it going down to 30 some cents. It's not. The check was for the full $68,844. We should see that soon. So that's the upside.
Is that a rebate on the tax we paid on the fuel? We included that.
It's an alt
Not in my
fuel
calculations.
credit, so it's not the federal excise tax. It's not that one. It's, you can apply for that, but since we didn't pay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Sort of-
What had happened is Jack said that he did not believe we could get it because we didn't own the buses. That's what Andy was told, but Andy went further and said, wait a minute. And he explored it all, so I gotta give Andy all the credit in the world here. This will make our numbers look better. They're not gonna be great this year, but better.
But, so, he found that money, I'm just putting this out there, and you put up some things that your office is responsible for, that if you had a little administrative help,
Yeah.
you could focus on some of those other things. And if we're getting this money in, and I don't know if you've already counted in the budget, if we could give you some money for a part-time administrative help or something to take off some of those tasks so you could spend more time on this, I think we should look at that. I mean, you've already found,
And that's repetitive, that's not
Or-
one-time money, that's every year.
yeah, $100,000. I mean, so I don't know if we could, what I heard you imply anyway was if you had an administrative person to do some of these tasks, you and your staff could be doing others. I don't know if we can give you a whole person, but
Yeah.
could we look in,
Could we look
Robert's not
at
here, but-
reorganizing the office and changing duties? And come back to you with
Well,
a plan.
from my viewpoint, you've found money for us, and so to put a little bit, invest a little bit back into you and your staff seems to make sense to me.
You
We
know,
need most of the
also
dollars.
encourages you to
Right.
find more money.
Well, and other departments, anybody running a department, if you can find money, we can give you a little piece back maybe.
Well, we used to, the E-rate, we hired someone to do the E-rate for the computer space. That was because one was complex and two, they knew the lay of the land. And so sometimes I know in another organization, we hired people who would find this sort of stuff and they did it for 10% of the savings. That, if we pulled in and they would, gather the data, they do the terms and,
You have an opening, you'll come back to us if you wanna,
I think the bigger, and I wish he was here, so I make the statement to him, is we have a really lean administration, everybody knows this. I think there's probably opportunities throughout the district for us to either be more efficient or to drive a better academic outcome for the kids, or a better environment around staff development if we had a slightly bigger piece. So for me, it's not just in a vacuum, I think.
no, I don't disagree, but this is very
But then
specific.
we'll-
He's
but then-
earned money back, we could say you have X number of dollars to, and have some way to get some of those administrative tasks done. I would be for it. But you have to talk to Robert and come back and see what you wanna do.
How much time? The last
I talked to Bob.
Okay. Next
if you
slide.
can show us more slides with 165,000. As you want.
We'll go one by one. And,
They can wait in there.
So I just wanted to touch on what's next. As you guys know, moving to Transminder, very excited about that. Have a tool that allows us to identify opportunities and whether we can execute them or not. That's to come. Moving to a more electronic space. Right now, it's a lot of paper. And then, next year, as we're going through, we really need to talk about what I call a playbook. What's an acceptable amount of time, the walk distance, to make sure that as we transition into, I guess, the new layout of Council Rock, that we're going into it with, an accurate playbook. We have people nowhere near the maximum times or the walk distances, so I think it's probably appropriate that we change them or allow us to get closer to the 75 minutes and a mile. And how much money's on the table, we won't know till we run the analysis, but I'm sure it'll be an eye-opening number. Because right now we're doing a tremendous service for the community, and that's a good thing. But I think there's a balance right there. And then moving on to year 3, obviously executing that playbook, and then looking at some of the different technologies out there, whether it's student tracking system cameras, better telematics, and improve our reporting that way as we make these changes with attendance boundaries in schools, so we have the best information. I think that takes us close to the time.
We're close. Any board questions?
Just a comment, that was great work.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
I agree.
Sounds like you're off to a great start here.
Excellent,
$166,000 would be good.
that's great.
There's more out there, we'll mention.
Which is easier, pallets or children?
Parents don't have parents.
That would be the new quote. Never mind the quote you put on the bottom. The quote on the bottom is, pallets don't have a parent.
Okay, that was our only agenda item, correct? You have one
We'll
other
add
thing?
the calendar, but I'll send that out to everybody and look at it. It's the.
Of the calendar for our finance,
Yeah, there's-
nothing big other than,
The dates,
November,
is.
we have to do by Thanksgiving, what, the rest of it. Is that it? Public comment?
Well, there's one other thing.
What, all right,
The,
first then public comment.
North high school got a grant from the Bucks Innovation and Improvement Grant, Mindfulness and Education for $10,000. I think they want to do some press releases, things like that. You need to approve it at the next meeting. I want to make sure you guys are aware of it, and I'll say, yes, we'll accept $10,000. So-
Yes, we'll accept $10,000.
I'm gonna ask you at the meeting why South didn't get one too, so come up with an answer between now and then.
They got a CREF grant for that, not $10,000 though. But they are getting it.
Well,
That's
I wanna
not
go
Bob's,
over why
that's
we
not
didn't
Bob's
do-
question though. If you,
Yeah,
you know,
that
that's
would be-
South, that's Barry,
Yeah.
or somebody in South before too. Okay, before we break, I need public comment. Nancy.
Just
would you like
with,
to say something?
application that you made that if you know, save money, then maybe you could get his department a little more help to do, you
Well,
know,
some of the
better things,
tasks, yeah.
whatever those better things are. And I wish you would apply that to when you close Lynchborough Middle School. A lot of students will have to transition, and some of them just for a year, and they should be grandfathered in. The district's gonna save them $1 million, and a quarter of the students at Lynchborough are on the track team, and another 95 or so are from Holland. And every single student who plays baseball, football, whatever, has more competition as soon as they become one school. Half of them that are now on the team will not make a team. Many of them will go over to track because that's what they do. And I wish you would consider the savings that you're getting from Richborough to build a track. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Meeting adjourned. See you next door.